All right, you didn't think we'd just leave you with an unboxing. Of course we gotta go through the set figure by figure. Now, a couple disclaimers. Unlike most of our unboxings, we don't have even, I wouldn't say remotely close to a full set. We've got a full set of commons, we're missing an uncommon, and there's a couple of rares and super rares, and obviously the chases from the Ninja Turtle set, Heroes in a Half Shell, that are still a mystery to us. In the meantime, what we are going to do is do our figure-by-figure analysis of each figure, define whether it's probably going to be a casual or a competitive figure, and remember, neither is bad, it's just where you're going to be playing them for the most part, because always remember that only a small percentage of figures really ends up in the high end of competitive play, and otherwise it'll just be a matter of forcing a figure to work. And we will try to go over that along with, specific to the table games, non-resource competitive and resource level competitive, being where resources are allowed in the game. So that said, let's get into the action and start talking about TMNT Heroes in a Half Shell based on what we pulled from our gravity feed in our early unboxing. All right, and here we are in the offices of Wizkids, and those of you who don't get the joke, this map is the felt map that is the Wizkids office, so don't get too excited. We didn't come up from the Great White North down to New Jersey, though it would be a nice trip one day. Either way, let's start getting into it. So here we have, at the start, figure number 001, Raphael. He's based, of course, on the 1987 comic book or cartoon series, which a lot of us can claim as our introduction into the Ninja Turtles. He comes with the TMNT Ally, Animal, and Martial Artist keywords, and I'm going to give you a heads up right now. Raphael, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Leonardo all have those keywords, so I'm not really going to go into those in depth. But he does have this cool but crude trade. Raphael can use Battle Fury and Shape Change. And that's traded Battle Fury and Shape Change, a pretty neat combination of powers to have. And then he's got this Lock Blades ability. Raphael can use Blades, Claws, Fangs. Adjacent opposing characters can't use Blades, Claws, Fangs. So Raphael is a neat little figure who comes in at 5 clicks, 60 points. He's got combat reflexes, Indomitable, so if he does get into close combat, he does his job well. Problem, of course, is that every game starts at range, so it's one of those things to take into account when you're considering it. As well, when you think about this Raphael and compare him to the 50-point common from the previous set, it's really hard to look inside of these sets in a bubble. So at the casual table, he's going to do a lot of work, and if you do happen to find a team in competitive that can make effective use of Raphael, it will be strictly as a hard counter to those, I believe, the drop bears, or one of the tokens that definitely really scares you when it comes to Devil Dinosaur out there. That said, mostly casual character, it would be a strict hard counter outside of the casual play. And that's the common Raphael. Next, we move to the common Michelangelo. So Michelangelo also comes in at 60 points like his friends, and again, like I said, the same keyword selection. He's got the Party Dude trait. When Michelangelo or another character with a TMNT keyword makes an attack, attack rolls of 11 are also critical hits. So he does increase the number of critical hits you have. As well, he's got a special movement power. If Michelangelo is indoors, he can use Hypersonic. If he's outdoors, he can use Sidestep. A very specific power set that I really wish gave him something a little better than Hypersonic outdoors. Better than Sidestep in the outdoors, because that first 2 clicks and the last click is when he gets it. He lacks Indomitable, does have some Perplexing and Power across the dial, but like I said, this game starts at range, and if you don't have that Hypersonic, this Michelangelo is significantly less good than he is if he is indoors. So the fact that map can make such a drastic difference on this character does put him in the casual format for the most part. Of course, when it comes to the Turtles, I do often forget that the Turtle Van exists and can get them there. So don't don't completely discount them, but it would require what is the level of a convention exclusive, which is why I don't want to overvalue them to everybody when I'm shouting the laurels from the stands. Anyway, my favorite turtle himself, Donatello. Donatello, again, same keyword set. Let's get that focused. There we go. And his trait does machines, as the song says. Give Donatello a power action when he's adjacent to an object or a character holding an object. Remove that object from the game. And all friendly characters with a TMNT keyword modify their attack values by +1 until one of those characters hits an opposing character. And then he's got a special damage power, Outwit. Brains of the Bunch. Donatello can use Outwit when he does roll a d6. On a 5 to 6, Donatello can use Outwit a second time, this time targeting the same character. And here is where I have to weep a little on the inside, because Donatello is basically an Outwit delivery device with a touch of Defend. You really want him on that second click. Now that's okay because he does a leap and climb to get there. You can use the Outwit when you get there to make him useful. And then, you can remaneuver, reposition, and then you have an 18 defense with Defend next to your buddies. He strictly, though, becomes the two-faceted figure of Outwit and Defend. He's going to be a character that looks really good in casual play, and I really wish he was a few less points to put him in the competitive circuit. But he is not a bad figure in any way, shape, or form. He's just, all right when it comes down to it. Next up, Leonardo. Leonardo, he's got the leads trait. Leonardo can use leadership. When he does and succeeds, modify the defense value of one friendly character with the TMNT keyword by +1 until your next turn. Then he's got a special attack power, Twin Katanas. Leonardo can use Blades, Claws, Fangs. When he does, he may instead roll 2d6 and choose 1 as a result. And then he's got a pretty standard power set with Indomitable as well. Let's get a look at that dial in a second. As I mentioned, the keywords again, same as the other turtles. He's got the high attack in this sense, 11 attack on this turtle. That starts with toughness. He does have Indomitable, and then that moves into some mid-dial combat reflexes. If you can get Leo in there, that 2 dice roll, or 2 dice for Blades Claws on the first 3 clicks, that can really pay off really hard. Oftentimes you'll find yourself not having to deal with that fear, in this case, of, oh my gosh, what if I roll a 1? Because you have 2 dice on the way there, and that can really go a long way. He does come in at 60 points, which is it's point heavy for a character with Blades, Claws, Fangs in the modern game. He's good. He runs the line. If you can make effective use of him and his leadership trait somehow, possibly even getting double whammy out of leadership with the common turtles from the first set, you can really get your distance out of this Leonardo. So, and because the common turtles have made it into a build that we've seen, I'm going to put Leonardo running the line of casual and competitive, mostly because if you put this Leonardo on the team with the 50-point Michelangelo, Raphael, and Donatello, along with the Turtle Band and Casey Jones, you've got a bubble of death on the way to your opponent, and that's not a bad thing. And of course, you also get the leadership bonus of leadership in addition to that +1 defense. All right, next up, Casey Jones. He's got the body check or slap shot trait. Special power. Special damage power. My bad, it's not a trait. He's also a TMNT ally and martial artist. His special power says give Casey Jones a free action and choose close combat expert or range combat expert. Casey Jones can use the chosen power until you choose again. If you watch the Metal Lab, we've previewed this guy, and I do have to repeat that this is going to be a casual character, mostly because at 60 points, I'd rather spend the 30 on the other Casey Jones, and I can overlook the Battle Fury on him 100%. He's neat. The sidestep plus 5 range with the ability to use range combat expert or close combat expert is an interesting combination, but at this point value, there are different and if not better options in the competitive environment. I will have Casey Jones at my table games a lot. All right, still in the common slot. We move next to the Foot Ninja with the Qatar. Now, you'll see a couple things in common with the Foot Clan. For one, their keywords, Foot Clan, TMNT Villain, and Martial Artists are across the board. And there'll be Foot Ninja in brackets what weapon they have. In addition, they all have the special movement power. Foot Ninja can use sidestep and stealth, and they all have ignore hindering terrain for movement purposes. Where they all differ, it's going to be this special attack power, the Qatar Penetrating Dagger in this case. Foot Ninja can use Blades, Claws, Fangs. When Foot Ninja makes a close attack while occupying hindering terrain, the damage dealt is penetrating. And you'll also see something common. The dials are all exactly the same, where the attack power represents the weapon, which they have on the first 2 clicks, the sidestep and stealth on the first 2 clicks as well, and then it moves to stealth with some close combat expert on the last click. Coming in at 30 points, based on the 1984 comic series, the Foot Ninjas are really interesting damage output. They do a ton of damage for what you pay for them, so they could definitely run the line. I'm going to call all the Foot Ninjas running the line in the middle, with some just not standing out as much as others, and we're going to get into that in a second with the other ones. So next up, we have the Foot Ninja with the 3-segment staff. And again, like I said, everything is the same on the style with the exception of the weapon. In this case, a 3-segment staff. Give Foot Ninja a power action, make a close attack, targeting up to 3 adjacent opposing characters. Hit characters are each dealt 1 damage instead of normal damage and given an action token. Now, you got to think about positioning with this character. If it goes off, your opponent will feel it. If it doesn't go off, your opponent's going to laugh at the 30 points you just scored. Now, the fact that these foot soldiers also come with willpower on that first click can definitely get them a little bit more mobility, a little bit more into the action. But you do still have to be fairly careful with the fact that they are only 3 clicks. Now, next one is the Foot Soldier Shuriken. And he comes with the Shuriken weapon. Like I said, same keywords, same improved movement, and same movement power with sidestep and stealth. We just go into the Shuriken weapon of distraction. It's a unique modifier, so it only works if you have 1 hit, 1 character, or in the case of this one, 2, because he does have 2 targets with 5 range in this case. When Foot Ninja hits a range attack, hit characters modify their attack and defense values by -1 until your next turn. So if you can pull off that 10 attack, you don't have to do damage to the character for that effect to go off. That's the important part, because it just requires a hit with a range attack. So, you know, looking at it in that sense, the 5 range, 2 targets with sidestep does give him an effective swing of 7. And you're a little free to move on the first turn, ignoring hindering. He's got a lot of mobility. That can go a long way to set up a big attack across the turn on something significantly bigger if you can make that 10 attack work in your favor. So I'm going to put the Foot Soldier, or the Foot Ninja Shuriken, it's a little higher than the other ones, a little bit over the line on competitive play, mostly because he is range. And like I said, and I've been preaching a little while now, the game always starts at range. All right, and the last of the Foot Ninjas with the twin katanas. And his twin katana power, much like Leonardo's twin katanas, Foot Ninja can use Blaze Claw's Fangs. When he does, he may instead roll 2d6 and choose 1 as a result. And I'm just going to give another quick look at the dial, because we've seen it before, but this dial is the same on all of the Foot Ninjas, and all first 2 clicks with the attacks representing their weapon, then the first 2 with the movement power of sidestep and stealth. And of course, they ignore hindering for movement purposes. This one, much like the Leonardo, is actually cheaper, and I'd probably be more inclined to use this over Leonardo because of the number of modifiers that exist in the game. That 10 attack can easily become an 11 or 12, depending on the figures that you're using. And ultimately, it's just, I can get 2 of these where I can get 1 Leonardo. And you know, in that case, one big hit that would kill Leonardo still only kills 1 of these foot ninjas. So that's why I kind of hold these in a higher regard in a lot of cases. All right, and the last figure in the common slot, and I was quite giddy to find out that these are in there. We have a Triceraton. Now, this is not a specifically named Triceraton, and Triceratons are a race, so I'm believing this is supposed to represent a generic Triceraton soldier. This is based on the 1984 comic series version, but let's get into it. So he's got a special defense power, extremely tough hide. Triceraton can use toughness and takes a maximum of 2 damage from attacks. So if your opponent attacks this guy on the first click with 4 damage, then anything more than 3 damage has got diminishing returns against the Triceratons. And that's actually really good when you factor in that he's but a mere 65 points. That starts with a running shot and psychic blast, and you know you will get this to go off twice if they're hitting you hard enough. I really like this character, and I'm really hoping I can find a place to squeeze them on some teams. The soldier keyword is a very common one, but I wouldn't mind seeing if we see some more Triceratons come out of the Ninja Turtle sets, along with the TMNT villain and soldier keywords that he does have. So I'm gonna put him riding the hardline competitive side, but in casual games he's going to seem strong. All right, so then we move into the uncommon slot. And the first one, I was really excited to see that we got this design, and that was the April O'Neil in the One Piece coveralls. She is a TMNT ally and reporter keywords, and she also comes with one of those neat little reporter powers. Those of you who've been paying attention to the design of the game recently, starting at Superman Wonder Woman, we started seeing characters that are reporter keywords with some kind of world needs to know power, which has some kind of effect on a figure within 4 squares. And in this case, at the beginning of the turn, you may choose an opposing character within 4 squares and line of fire. Until your next turn, that character subtracts 2 from its breakaway rolls. Though indirectly, this can sort of give some of your characters an effective plasticity, which is super important when you include it with figures like the Ninja Turtles, who really, really rely on close combat. In addition, she has sidestep to give that an extra little 2 squares of space. And then we look at her dial. For 25 points, you get a character that starts with support, which is phenomenal. It's a 9 attack, but when you're using support, you're generally relying on late dial stats. She does have super senses on her first 2 clicks, and then she turns into shape change in the late dial, so it might not even get a chance to target, let alone if you can hit on the first 2 clicks. And then she has her reporter power across the entire dial. So for 25 points, she's definitely an easy fill-in in a competitive team, and I would put her in that mark where you will see her, especially in the no resource format of competitive play. All right, next up we have Irma. If you watched the Metafix, I got really excited about this character, but I got even more excited for another one later on, also related to her. Irma has TMNT ally, TMNT villain, Utrom, robot, and spy keywords. As well, she's got her starting trait, which is defined based on her point values. If she's 25 points, she's KO'd if she crosses the red line. And if Irma is 60 points, she's not KO'd when she crosses the red line. Then she's got the hidden Krang subprime defense power. Stop. Irma can use invulnerability, and that's basically represent her turning into the Krang subprime. Then she's got a special damage power. Irma can use perplex and doesn't block friendly characters' lines of fire. I have said this when we previewed her on the Meta Lab, but it's worth mentioning again. At 25 points, a perplexing body blocker that doesn't block your bodies from shooting around her is actually a pretty good option, and we will see her definitely in the no resource format. She also fits in as a perplexer on the very relevant and very prevalent these days robot swarm teams, so keep an eye open on that. And of course, with the 60 points, making her a great disguise for Chameleon, where you can turn into the Krang subprime and do up to 5 damage, or 5 damage with a heavy object with 12 attack if you happen to be caught in a decent enough position, or you can be flurrying. It's a very flexible close combat character in the late dial, but it is ultimately the Krang subprime dial at the end of it. So all 25 points is going to be seen. 60 points is probably a more casual version of the figure. All right. This is by far, when I looked at this dial, or in figure in general, the most baffling and exciting figure I've still got to read the comic book of. And that is Shen Khan. Shen Khan has TMNT villain, martial artist, and mystical keywords. A very important keyword in the current environment of the game. Excuse me. Oh. He's got a special attack power, Sacrificial Dagger. Shen Khan can use Blades, Claws, Fangs, and Steel Energy. When Shen Khan KOs an opposing character after actions resolved, heal him 2 clicks. Then he's got a special damage power, Open a Gate to the World of the Oni. Once per game, when Shen Khan KOs an opposing character after actions resolved, you may place a Noi Tai Dar Great Oni bystander as described on this card in the KO'd character squares. Now first, I want you to get a good look at the power set that's here, because when you see it on the dial, it's going to be a pretty eclectic dog man's carrying a sword. So let's get into first the POG, the No Tai Dar Great Oni bystander token. So it comes in 6 range, 10 movement with phasing. Hold on, let me focus this for you guys. There we go. 10 movement with phasing, 11 attack with Psychic Blast, Indomitable, 18 defense with Impervious, got Close Combat Expert with 3 damage, and he is colossal. Just And this comes out of a 75-point character, though it does come on his late dial. And the character does have to earn a KO. There is a couple stipulations to it, but based on the way this character looks and is probably going to play, it's going to be a smart person's character. I'm going to give him that. And this is from the 88 comic book series that I want to... It's like the second run of the Ninja Turtles. Anyway, so he starts off with some charge, blades, combat reflexes, leadership, moves into mind control and probability control. Yep, stay with me here. And then when you are trying to call the Great Oni, you move into a Blaze Claws, Super Senses, charge situation, but then continue on with Flurry with that Steel Energy Blaze Claws Fangs, along with, again, that Great Oni power that's sitting there. And this is the Blaze Claws Fangs Steel Energy that if you can KO a character, you get 2 clicks of life off of. So you can KO the character, bang, bang, get a Great Oni and 2 clicks of life back along with the Steel Energy where you get the 1 click. So you can heal 3 clicks, 1, 2, 3, boom, there you are, and you've got a giant, and you've got this staring your opponent down in the face on the board. Now, overall, he's a really interesting character, but I do still have to put him in the end of not necessarily competitive, but does run the line. There will be teams made that make him work, but there will also be a lot of failed attempts at first with him. I'm going to put him on the line. But a smarter player will be able to make him work and make a great deal of fear come out of their opponents with this guy. All right. Oh, now I'm done talking at great length about Shen Khan. Let's talk about the Squirrelanoid. His only special power, his special movement power, fast deadly shadows. Oh, it's also a TMNT villain, animal, and monster. Squirrelanoid can use charge, flurry, and stealth, and that gets all attached on the first 2 clicks with precision strikes, shape change, and toughness on a 60-point dial that moves into some super senses later in the dial. This is going to be one of those characters where, you know, your opponents are going to go, wait, he does what? The first couple times they play against him, but for the most part, he's going to be mostly relegated to the casual game, the ones at your kitchen table. And you're probably not going to see him in the competitive play, but man, is this a fun guy. And for those of you who watch the 2012 animated series, watch Mikey come up with the name of this, or just watch the reactions. This is just a great episode of the cartoon, too. Me and Amber laughed our butts off at it. All right, next up, Bebop. This is one of the figures that was previewed before, so I'm going to try to go through it fairly quickly. He's got the Foot Clan, TMNT, Villain, Animal, and Brute keywords. Then he's got the 2 traits. First one, so my part of the plan was what? If a friendly character named Shredder is on the map, Bebop can use willpower. Friendly characters named Shredder or Rocksteady can use enhancement, but only to modify characters named Bebop or Rocksteady. Did I screw up again? Once per turn, when Bebop misses an attack, put an Incompetent Idiot token on this card. Give Bebop a free action, remove 2 Incompetent Idiot tokens to heal another friendly character that shares a keyword 2 clicks. And then the dial is what you see is what you get. And you're going to see with Rocksteady, it's a mirror image of Rocksteady's dial. If he wasn't 80 points, I'd be a little bit more excited about this guy, but the fact that he's 80 points means you at minimum have to have a Shredder to give him the willpower that he really needs to super function. But he does come with some invincible. He's a tough dude at 80 points, but the climate of the competitive game doesn't necessarily welcome him. But again, kitchen table games, playing scenarios, playing those TMNT villains, those Foot Clan teams, or even throwing him on an animal team, is going to be interesting, and he's going to be a tough target, possibly ignored target by a lot of opponents because he doesn't seem all that threatening at first. And then we move to his counterpart in Rocksteady. All right, so we have Rocksteady. Rocksteady, his first trait, what was I supposed to be doing? And if a friendly character named Shredder is on the map, Rocksteady can use willpower. Friendly characters named Shredder or Bebop can use empower, but only to modify characters named Bebop or Rocksteady. Missed it by that much. Once per turn, when Rocksteady misses an attack, put a Mutant Moron token on this card. Give Rocksteady a free action and remove 2 Mutant Moron tokens, or remove all action tokens from another character that shares a keyword. So, and this is again, like I said, a mirror image of the Bebop dial. where he starts with a charge, goes into running shot, and also starts with some Battle Fury. Ultimately, Bebop, Rocksteady, and Shredder at minimum come to a 210-point team that basically all have to be together. And I think that's one of the flaws in them because they can't really independently function. And I kind of see Rocksteady or Bebop Rocksteady as a combo as a two-figure combination that you must spend 160 points on, and then add a Shredder to give them willpower. So again, that combination of figures is super powerful, but that combination of figures isn't super competitive either. So a good figure, but good is going to stand out good in casual games. All right, and next up, to wrap up the uncommon slots, we are missing a Fugitoid, but if you check out Heroclix.com for a preview of the Fugitoid, you can check that out. All right, so the Shredder has a Foot Clan, TMNT villain, and martial artist keywords. He comes with a Thermite Grenade trait. When Shredder is KO'd from an attack, deal 3 penetrating damage to all characters within 3 squares and on the same elevation of the square he last occupied. He's got a special defense power. You cannot beat me, even 4-1. Shredder modifies his defense value by +1 for each opposing character within 3 squares, and then he's got a special damage power. Shredder can use head of the New York branch of the foot. Shredder can use leadership. When he does and succeeds, instead of removing 1 action token, remove an action token from up to 2 adjacent characters with the Foot Clan keyword, regardless of point value. Now, this is one that can make that Bebop and Rocksteady really good if the leadership keeps going off, and I'm also flabbergasted that this is but a mere 50-point figure. There is a slot in a lot of teams, especially in the no resource format, where this Shredder definitely fits in. As well, the current climate of the game does contain quite a few characters on the board at once, so you could very well be looking at a 20, 19, and 19 defenses for those first 3 clicks, because that defense is not based against close combat attacks. I think it's just his defense goes up for characters within 3 squares. So if you can throw him in and then eventually deal damage, even if he does happen to get KO'd, this is a 50-point threat at all times, dead or alive. And that's why I really like this version of the Shredder. And there is definitely a strength lean if you look at the 1984 comic series figures. That's not a bad thing necessarily. All right, so next we move into the rare slot. We pulled 4 rares in our Gravity Feed booster. And before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody, you're going to see 22 figures in this because we pulled 24 packs out of the Gravity Feed, and 2 of them were repeat commons in the Michelangelo Casey Jones. So we're going to continue on now with Splinter. Now let me get that focus for you guys there. All right. Now Splinter is a TMNT ally and a martial artist. He's also unique, like the Shredder before him, and there's a good reason why. He's got a special damage power, Rat No More. Splinter can use shape change. If Splinter has been attacked, that opponent's force cannot make attacks this turn. Whew. Oh yeah, did I mention he's 45 points? With 18 defense starting off. Now, defenses are easy enough to raise, and get, you know, if you can functionally use the rule of 3 to get that 18 to a 21, he's darn near impossible to hit, which means and you can now take this character, force him in your opponent's face, and then force some mistaken attack attempts at this character. And should they fail those attack attempts, they can't attack, and it can just be 1 attack attempt. They will not be allowed to attack for the rest of the turn with their force, which means they're stuck in a repositioning state. This is a character that is very shockingly good for the point value you get, and I can definitely see a lot of smart teams, very effective teams, control teams using Splinter to really ruin opponents' days. So I'm going to put him on the side of competitive play. It's just a matter of, it's still leaning on the line, mostly because you still got to take a lot of work to take that 18 defense to something that's going to be significantly harder to hit. And also, if you are rolling a hot on your shape change rolls, well, then that's not going to trigger the power either. And if your opponent's smart, they can get another target. So there's a couple upsides, a couple downsides, but overall, this is a very interesting 45-point spend, and I can't wait to see if this power ever goes off and just absolutely ruins one of my opponent's just faces. And by face, I mean just their cheeriness. All right, next up, we got Slash. Slash is the Mutanimal, TMNT ally, TMNT villain, and animal keywords. Ignores hindering from movement. Special movement power, Slash can use charge and ignores blocking and breaks through it for movement. And then he also has a special damage power, just you and me against the world, Raph. Slash can use Close Combat Expert and Empower. Adjacent friendly characters named Raphael modify their attack and defense values by +1. Slash is cool. This dial is massive at 7 clicks for 100 points. He does have a defense power on all of them. And he, if he's alongside a Raph for those first 2 clicks, he's also indomitable. He's making himself being already strong. He's also got Raph becoming a force to be reckoned with, especially if you look to the classic comic book version from the first set, where he's doing penetrating damage along with flurry with his attacks. You'll increase the attack by +1 with him, and because it's in power as well, and you have to be adjacent anyway, you're looking at a lot of damage potential, but that is also spending 100 points to make 50 points good, or 75 if you're using the chase. He's also he's really an eyesore to your opponent. Your opponent is probably going to target him, so it could end up being just a 100-point body blocker, where this guy might benefit from having an Irma in front of him. This is definitely a hard line towards casual, but there is definitely a lot to be said for this character, and he can be made to work. Especially if you can build around him with the options of Raphaels that you do have. So Slash definitely falls into that casual line that I wish was on the other side of the line. All right, so next up, the surprise to me and Amber was the 2011 Ninja Turtles. Now we got 2 of them in Donatello and Leonardo. I'm very happy that Donatello is one of them. So Donatello comes with TMNT ally, animal, martial artist, and scientist keywords. He's got a trait much like his brother there, Leonardo. Turtle power. Donatello can use stealth and toughness, and he's got ignores, hindering, and elevated terrain for movement purposes. Then he's got a special attack power, ride the bow. When Donatello hits an opposing character after action is resolved, you may place that character within Donatello's range and line of fire. Very strong repositioning power. It does have a range of 3, just so you get an idea of where that's coming from. He just has to hit, so it could be a range attack with that 3, when you can really reposition and definitely open up heck. In addition, he's got the Keen Turtle Intellect special damage power. At the beginning of your turn, choose 1, Outwit, Perplex, or Support. Donatello can use the chosen power until your next turn. He has that on his first 2 clicks, so you can actually increase that range to 4, increase that attack to 10, or on the second click, 12. To 11 or 12. You can do a lot, or you can outwit a power that's particularly getting in your way, or you can support one of your other characters on your team, because he is a scientist, so he's not limited to just being on a Ninja Turtles team. He's a hard line towards more on the casual side. The dial is really good, but you are still spending 100 points on these turtles, and if you want to play them as a foursome, you're going to end up having to give up any idea or any illusions of playing them in the 300-point format, which is where competitive play occurs. That said, I like this character a lot, and I am definitely any chance I get where I'm not playing in a hard game, this Donatello is going to be tempted to be put on my team. And then his brother Leonardo, very similar trait, same improved movement, same keywords, except he doesn't have scientists. So this one comes with TMNT ally, animal, and martial artists. And then he's born to lead, groomed to succeed is his special damage power. Leonardo can use leadership. When he does, increase the result by 1 for each adjacent friendly character with the TMNT keyword. So pay attention to this, guys. A lot of people look at it and go, oh, this Leonardo with this Donatello, his leadership is not good. But then include it with this Raphael or from the previous set, and that leadership starts to look a little bit better, especially when you start, getting into groups of guys that you want. He also comes at 100 points, but he also comes a little differently with that starting defend at 18 defense. Also 3 range, not indomitable like his brother. This is an interesting choice of figure. He's very flexible. These guys are very flexible with their improved movement, which I think puts them above ground on a lot of what's in the set. And I think that's another thing that factors in their point values. Their flexibility of movement is massive, and they might as well fly. Let's just say that. And with the exception of ignoring blocking terrain, but you can always deal with that out of your own volition. He does come with some really solid attack values across it, some mid-dial exploit weakness, and some late-dial blades. That leadership is across the board it's not across the board, it's first two and last two clicks. Yeah, I like the Leonardo. He's not competitive, and, you know, they might not necessarily be that great, but, you know, why the heck not, right? Anyway, so now we come to the super rare we pulled in the gravity feed, the Krang Subprime. I'm apologizing now for my Gilbert Gottfried impression. It's not the greatest. But he does have the TMNT villain, Utrom, and robot keywords. Then he's got improved targeting, can shoot while base to base with shoot an adjacent opposing character. Then he's got this non-essential parts trait once per game. When Krang Subprime would take damage, you may instead place an autonomous head bystander as described on this card within 3 squares of line of fire. When he does, modify his attack value by -1 for the rest of the game. So you lose your attack, but you don't take the damage you're about to take. That could come in handy at the right time if you time it correctly. Then he's got a special movement power, and we'll see where that is. It's not on the start, though. Krang Subprime can use Force Blast. Force Blast plasticity and running shot. A good combination of powers ultimately when you consider what he does have. He is indomitable and he is a giant. Now before we get to the dial, let's get a look at what that autonomous head is. It's not particularly super powerful, but it does have sidestep, outwit, indomitable, super sensitive with an 18 defense. It is tiny size. So it can definitely be an annoyance, and it takes a lot of effort to kill it. So a lot of the times you're going to have to measure whether the attack is going to be worth it, right? So, all right. Then we take a look at the dial we have itself. And at 160 points, again, Indomitable, Giant, 11 attack for first 3 clicks, 10 attack for next 3 clicks, and ends at a 9 attack. Now, depending on when you have to use the autonomous head, notice I'm using the Krang Subprime to point things out, when you do end up having to use that autonomous head, that goes to 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 9, 8. But that's only when you have to use it. If there's a place I can see you want to use it, it's to keep this middle dial, because this has running shot, it has plasticity, which makes it easy to break away in addition to stopping things like hypersonic from being an absolute nightmare. And it also adds force blast, so you can make knockback attacks with these psychic blast attacks. So yeah, it's not super competitive. But there's something to be said for that mid dial. Stop taking damage for a second. It's just if it was a power that couldn't be ignored, it would put it miles above. But it definitely runs the hard line of, you know, being between casual and competitive. It needs a few more elements to be a little bit more competitive. So I'll put it on the hard casual with competitive future possible, depending on who's crazy enough to make it happen. All right, and that's the stuff we got from the gravity feed, and let's get back to my face for the outro. All right, so Ninja Turtles follows that gamut, if you look at a lot of the characters that we've specifically pulled, of a lot of fun. And it's very similar with the first Ninja Turtle set. There's a couple standouts from that set if you look to it, and a lot of people a couple people have managed to use the Turtle Band in conjunction with the Ninja Turtles to make some, quite successful teams make a run of it. But that's, with all that in mind, always remember when I say competitive versus casual, I'm going to remind you again that not everything can be super hyper competitive. But then oftentimes when I say it now, something might come out that makes one of these characters stand out significantly better. And usually when I'm referring to it, it's just a character on their own. There is work that can be done on a lot of characters to make them really, really successful. Much like that Splinter, as I said. So Splinter and Shredder stand out in the set for me as really big potential characters, even though, like, when I say really big, there's a lot of potential in those little bitty packages. So keep that in mind when coming into the set. I'm looking forward to playing with this set massively. The 2011 comic book characters caught me off guard, and I'm really looking forward to cracking into them and seeing how they do. That said, guys, I hope you've enjoyed our unboxing, along with our figure by figure review of what we got from the gravity feed. Once again, would love to thank you very much to Wizkids for sending us the gravity feed nice and early so we can give everybody a chance to get a little bit of a deeper look into what's coming for Heroes for Hire, or Heroes in a Half Shell, Heroes for Hire. In Heroes in a Half Shell. And I'm really looking forward to this set coming out and getting my hands on some more of these turtles, maybe even more than ninjas. To you guys, have a good evening. Thanks again, Wizkids, for this, and we really hope we can do more of these in the future.